Hey baddie, if you want to sell through your content on Instagram in an effortless way in 2024, one of the things that you need to understand that really helped me to actually start leveraging my content in an efficient way is understanding that your content is actually a conversation with your ideal clients, right? And so I want you to imagine, let's say you're having a conversation with someone and you are, how do I explain this? Hey, thanks for joining. Let's say you're having a conversation with someone and every time that you respond to them, it's like you're not really participating in the same conversation. Like, or imagine like, you're like, hey, like, what did you do today? And the person's like, oh, I played tennis. And then you're like, oh, I actually baked these cookies the other day. I should give you the recipe. And the person's like, what? I'm just talking about like playing tennis. Do you see how that would be really confusing and they would lose interest in the conversation, right? It's the same with your content. So if your content is not adding to the same conversation consistently that you're having with your ideal clients, they're going to tune out and think that it's irrelevant for them, right? So that's kind of like the experience that your ideal clients have when you are posting content that is not hyper specific to what they're going through, what they need, what they're thinking about, and like what their ultimate kind of like goal is, right? And because of that mismatch, you are losing touch points, right? Because the key with marketing, and this is something that I talked about in my stories, is like, it's important what you say, of course, messaging, but something that I feel like is super underrated is the consistency with which you need to deliver your message, right? Because when you have that consistency, that's when you are hitting your ideal clients with the same message that's contributing to what's going on in their head. And then every time that you're hitting them with that precise message, they're moving further down the funnel because they feel understood, right? The key to sales is making people feel like you are only speaking to them. And so one of the root issues behind not actually creating content, hey Darren, one of the root issues behind having your content not resonate with your ideal clients is that you are speaking to different people. And so let's say, for example, I posted 5 posts this week, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And let's say that each of those, let's say 2 of those posts really resonated with my ideal dream client. But the rest of the 3 were kind of speaking to different people. So I'll give you a really concrete example. So I used to think that I had one ideal client, but I was actually speaking, I used to think I was speaking to one ideal client, but I was actually speaking to multiple ideal clients. So ages ago on LinkedIn, I had, niched down to business owners, but the challenge was that I thought that was enough to niche down to business owners who are looking to generate leads for their business. But I was speaking to both business owners who were relying on cold outreach to generate clients and kind of wanted to use their content to also generate clients. And I was speaking to business owners who were using referrals to get clients, but they wanted to switch to content. And I was speaking to business owners who were trying to use their content to convert, but it wasn't really giving them very consistent results, or they weren't generating any leads from it, right? So although all of these people want leads, the truth is they're all in different situations and they have different pain points, right? The person who is relying on cold outreach is going to have a different pain point. They're just like, I'm sending so many emails, it's not working. How do I get my content to generate clients for me, right? The second person is like, I'm so tired of relying on referrals. It's not fun. I want my content to bring in real clients, right? And the third person is like, why the hell is my content not, hey Danielle, the third person's like, why the hell is my content not converting, right? So there's these 3 types of people. The first person is complaining about having to cold outreach. The second person is complaining that they're only relying on referrals and they're worried it's going to dry out. The third person is complaining that they're posting all the content, but it's not converting, right? The truth is, these are all three different people. And I feel like a lot of people think that they are serving one client, and maybe their desire and their desired outcome is the same. But if the pain points in their current reality is not the same across all of them, your marketing is not going to be speaking to these different people. And so, like I said, I used to make that mistake where I was talking to those three people. So one day I'd be saying like, your cold outreach campaign just fell flat, and launch into a whole thing of like, this is what you're going through, and like, this is why you're going through it, this is how you can turn around and all that stuff, right? Then the next day I would talk about like, hey, like, you know, are you worried that your referrals are going to dry up? Like blah, 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 blah. And then like launching into another thing, right? And then on the third one, I would be like, you're posting content every day. You're so worried you're not going to land a sale, like blah, blah, blah. Again, launching into the same thing, right? So my posts were written very well. Like the strategy was there. I was posting the right type of content. One day I would even say, hey, here are the results that I've generated for my clients. But the problem was that I was not speaking to the current reality of my narrow, specific, ideal client, right? And so what was happening was the person who, let's say, is the one relying on referrals, if I'm posting 5 times a week, only 1 or 2 of those posts would really resonate with them. And what happens with that is, number 2, because you need to create a lot of touch points, like you need to like have your ideal client consume your content and be exposed to you selling your offer multiple times in order to, you know, move down the buyer journey and buy from you. What was happening is I was slowing down those touch points because I was only connecting with them like once or twice a week, as opposed to being able to connect with them 5 times a week, right? The other issue is because I was only connecting with them truly and making them feel understood once a week, just maybe once or twice a week, it wasn't enough frequency to accelerate their buyer journey because they would forget about me, right? Because there would be someone else who would be hitting them with exactly what they need every single day with their content, right? So I would become irrelevant. So in my attempt to basically please multiple people and try to get like more sales by targeting more people, I lost that precision. So it's like a sniper approach, right? Like you need to be very specific with what you're targeting and hit them with a consistent message. And this is why getting clear on your ideal client is so important, and something that I feel like people really kind of like, and I used to skimp out on it. Like I used to not, like subconsciously not want to do the work because it felt hard and also it was scary, right? I remember when I first actually even basically niched down to actual business owners where I'm like, I'm not serving people in corporate anymore who want to generate sales for their company. I was like, I'm just not working with them anymore. It's getting way too confusing to market to these 2 giant groups. I remember like when I niched down, it got so much easier to market, but like part of me was scared because I was like, oh, but like what if there's like corporate people who want to work with me? But the truth is, and this is where like our brain tries to protect us, the truth is, even though you are casting a wider net, it's almost like the holes in the net are bigger. So even though you're going for more people technically, and you're like, I'm open to working with all these people, you're not going to catch anything in your net because none of them feel understood. None of them feel, and one of the biggest reasons why people will buy from you is if they feel like you understand what they're going through. So this is kind of like the next piece that I really want to talk about, which is like around like how I get people to buy is I'm actually, and I talked about this in the beginning of the live, it's like your content is a conversation, right? And so there are so many conversations that are going on when you're posting content. There are people who are commenting on your content. There are people who are DMing you. And so what I'm doing is I feel like a lot of people, and I used to be like this, where I was actually scared to talk to my ideal clients. Like I was kind of like scared to like message them too much. I was like, this is really annoying. And so I would just like kind of create my content and like wait for them to reach out to me, right? But the challenge with that is you actually have no input. Like you're not getting any like internal feedback of what's going through their head, how they talk about their problems, what's on their mind, and all this stuff. And a lot of the time they're not going to respond to your content. So I have a woman who actually, like, I posted this reel and I had hit on actually an incorrect pain point. It was like, I had talked about like the fear of like being muted or something, which is like so irrelevant. This was like totally coming out of my head. Hey, thanks for joining. So I had posted this reel about like the fear of being muted or something. It was like super irrelevant. And actually one of the women commented and she was just like, my problem is actually XYZ. And the reason that she actually commented that on my reel is because we've been having a lot of conversations in the DMs about what she's going through. So she was actually tapped on enough to tell me, hey, that's actually not my pain point, basically in the comment, right? But the truth is, usually people are not bothered to tell you that it's not their pain point. Like, they're not going to comment on your reel, but like, actually, my problem is this. You need to actually create that conversation in your DMs. And that's why, like, actually talking to your ideal clients and understanding what's going through their mind. What are they struggling with right now? What do they want? What are they doing that they think is bringing them closer to their goal, but is not? One second, I need to turn down the heat a bit. All of these things will actually help you have that like two-way conversation with your clients, with your ideal clients, using your content, because you actually know what they're doing, right? Like, you're literally hearing straight from the horse's mouth what they're trying to do, and you can be like, I know that doesn't make sense. Like, let me go create a piece of content that now joins that conversation happening in their head, right? And I do this a lot with when people have inquired about working with me, or they've kind of like showed buyer signals, but let's say they're like waiting to reach out, or maybe like we're waiting for like a sales call, or like we've had the sales call and they're thinking about it or something like that. I will continue to tailor my content to what they're going through. So if I have like a really hot lead and I really would like for them to convert because I think that they're a great fit, I think this is like a super great like match for the both of us, for us to like work together, then I will literally go through the conversation that we've had in the sales call, in the DMs, what they told me, and I will literally custom create content for them, like specifically as if I was like responding to them in the DMs and giving them like a post. Like, imagine your ideal client says something in the DMs and you're just like, oh God, like that's wrong. And you're probably kind of just like, like I wish I could just correct them and tell them like, I can help you. Well, channel that feeling into creating a piece of content for it, right? So literally, like, whatever it is that you would want to respond to them in the DMs, literally create a piece of content to basically combat whatever they're saying, or like whatever you feel like you need to say to them to help them like understand what the situation is, right? I do this all the time. This is literally how I had, I signed on like a 6K private client when I was on vacation in Mexico. I literally was just like custom creating content on my Instagram stories, in my Instagram feed, in my Instagram live, based on exactly what we had discussed, what her hesitations were, like her own journey to creating her business, like things I knew she cared about, things I thought about my story that she would want to hear that would like have her tapped on even more. It's all basically like the strategic dance. And I feel like sometimes the problem is we don't see results, and then we want to almost like move on to like the next type of client or something, or like we want to move on to a different strategy. But like what I found works the best, and a big reason why I was able to get so many people inside my new program that I just dropped 5 days ago, or like a few days ago, like 4 or 5 days ago or something, is because I've been in conversation both with my content and in the DMs with these people for like honestly weeks, if not like months. because I'm targeting the same person, right? Like I've been very disciplined in terms of the ideal client that I'm talking to, making sure that every piece of content serves them, right? Every piece of content either educates them or shows them what they're doing wrong that they need to do instead, what they why they should trust me, like how I've driven these results for myself and my clients, stories about me that'll like get them connected to me, and then also like sharing my strong opinions to be like, hey, like this is why I'm different, this is why like you should hire me, like type of thing, right? With like, this is kind of like the how I think differently from other people, right? And that's kind of like my content strategy, by the way. I just basically walk you through like the 5 styles of content that I post, but I've been posting that content specifically for those people, that very narrow description of my ideal client, right? And I really listen when I see things in my content, in the DMs, in my lives. I know when things have hit because they will either comment on the post, or like when we're chatting in the DMs, they'll mention it, or if we're like live or something, they'll comment. Like I'm constantly in conversation with them and I listen, right? There was this one piece of content that I posted probably a few weeks ago, and one of my ideal clients literally was just like, I needed to hear this today. This is what I really need to like focus on, right? So that is a huge signal. That's like, okay, that hit. That's literally the person who I want to talk to. So now I'm going to keep digging deeper into that point, right? I'm not going to go now talk about something completely different. I'm not going to like, invent content ideas randomly and be like, oh, like this is like super fun to talk about today. No, I'm literally going to be like, okay, what are they doing right now? Like, okay, they're trying to get clear on that. What else do they need? Who have I done that? What other client have I done that for? How can I show I can drive that result? What's like a personal story I can talk about of my own that is going to show them like, hey, I understand what you've been through, or like here's some of the stuff I care about, and like really get them like emotionally kind of connected and tapped onto me, right? So these are all things that have like really helped me to get more efficient with my selling and get more intentional with who I'm actually calling in, right? And yeah, just really wanted to like highlight some of those things. Some of the other things that have really helped are honestly branding. Like that's been a huge one for me. I feel like so many people, even just like in the past 3 days or 4 days, or sorry, I'm not counting the days. I'm saying like there's been like 4 or 5 people who have like mentioned my brand in the past week, specifically in relation to hiring me. So there was a woman who jumped into IG Baddie, and she had been following me since 2021, or like 2020, 2021 or something on LinkedIn. And then she like started following me on Instagram, and she basically loves my brand. She just like loves what I stand for. She loves my transparency. She loves my authenticity. I even just got someone mentioning in the DMs, like, I love your brand. Like, I just like love looking at it. Like, it's super like aligned with what I really like love with branding, what I believe in, and I want to show up like that type of thing. And my brand is something that has routinely not just attracted sales, but like attracted the right type of people who are specifically looking for someone like me, right? And the way that I've been able to do that is not just the visual branding. I mean, that's a huge part of it too, but it's just like actually clarifying what I stand for, right? Like, and this is where just posting educational content, like this is why I have such an issue with it, because it doesn't really tell the person anything about like the flavor of you, right? Because like anyone can post, a carousel about like how to, I don't know, like design the best website or something, but like what's different about you? And like people these days, like a really big pattern I'm seeing is people are hiring people based on alignment, and like alignment in values and personality, and like even the way that they want to like build their business or do whatever it is. Let's say, for example, I don't know, like you want to hire like a a health coach or something, like maybe you really want to do like a paleo diet. Like you're going to find someone who is doing a paleo diet, or like maybe you're just really into, like maybe you're like a mom with like really small kids and you're just like, I feel more comfortable learning from a health coach who also is a mom with small kids. It makes me feel like I'm going to trust that they have a plan that works with my schedule and my energy levels and like what I'm currently going through, right? And who will like deeply understand me emotionally right now, right? So when you just post educational content, you're actually not sharing anything about your brand, and you're not sharing any like substance around like why. You're not exposing the reasons basically that people would actually want to hire you for, right? Like even a simple example is like a lot of my clients hire me. One of my clients told me they hired me because I look like I just woke up in a lot of my TikTok videos, right? So that's very much my brand. It's just like authentic, like, like I have like a bunch of like zits today, for example, like my skin is not happy today, but it's like I'm showing up anyway because my ideal client cares about this stuff. My brand is very just like, I don't care about being polished. I just care about being like authentic, being vulnerable, telling stories, like being fun, being my awkward, like Pixar character self. And just being me. And a lot of people, they want to be around someone who matches their energy and gets them excited, right? Because I know for myself, when I hire mentors, the one thing is, of course, or like I'm hiring anyone, it's like, yeah, I want you to be able to do the thing. Like obviously if I'm hiring like an email strategist, like you better be able to drive email results, but it's not just the results that are going to attract me to working with you. It's going to be like, do you have like a similar personality? Like I'll give you a good example. Like right now I'm actually kind of like slowly searching for my next coach. And one of my big requirements is I want them to be way more unhinged in their content than me, because I want to become even more like wild. I want to become more just like really like go against the grain, just kind of like the, oh my gosh, like who is that person type of like effect. I want to really build on top of that. So I'm not going to be hiring the business mentor who's like, a really cutesy girly girl, and she's just like, hey, like post this cute content. Like nothing against that, but it's just like, that's not my vibe. Like I want someone who's edgy. So if you give me 2 6-7 figure coaches, I'm not really going to look just at the results. I'm going to look at like whose brand pulls me in more, who pulls me in more emotionally, who makes me feel like I can be the certain version of me that I want to become, right? This is really like the transformation. Like what kind of identity does the person want to step into? And that's actually where branding comes in. And that is what has sold a lot of my offers, and not just sold the offers, but brought in the most aligned clients, because they're like, I love your brand. I also want to show up authentically. I love your brand. I also want to speak my truth. I love your brand. I also just want to post really weird content, kind of just like have people go like, what's wrong with her? But also I need to follow her type of vibe, right? Because I'm embodying that in my brand, right? And I really feel like Instagram is the place to build your brand, because there is so much like visual stuff, sounds, like just like the whole like vibe. It's such a like brandy platform. Like you don't get that. Certainly not on LinkedIn. You don't really get it on TikTok. So it's just more kind of like what you see is what you get type of thing. And so Instagram, like I honestly love it because you get to really embody your full brand with like all these things. And so that's why when I'm running the IG Baddie program starting at the end of January, the second step, which the first step is getting violently clear on your ideal client, because that's a non-negotiable, that literally drives everything. But number 2 is really getting clear on your brand. How do you want to show up? What are your values? What are you going to embody? Like, what do you stand for? How are you different? How do you want to make people feel? Like, what is different when someone steps into like your content? Like there needs to be that feeling, right? That's why we're doing that in step 2, because it's so critical, because that's going to be your differentiator, right? Along with, of course, the clarity on the ideal client and the right content and the strategy and everything. But your brand is something that can really give you a lot of visibility and also help people remember you, right? And get really connected to you. I feel like people really underestimate the the power of branding on Instagram. The last thing that I'll talk about is, which was kind of like the fourth point that I made in my stories today, which is like literally selling way more frequently than you think you need to. I used to definitely feel like selling was really awkward and you were like pushing things in people's faces. But the truth is, like, number one, people can just stop consuming. Like, no one is forcing them to watch your stories. No one is forcing them to read your emails or wherever you're selling. The truth is, people have their own free will. And if they don't want to pay attention, they can just stop paying attention, right? But the second thing that's really important is, and it's funny because I'll tell you a little quick story just to illustrate this point. So there's a certain program that I've been kind of like looking at recently, just very vaguely. I was like, it kind of looks cool. And initially I was like, I literally don't have time for another program. Like, I haven't even been following this person for a long time. Like, not sure, just like looks cool. So I was like paying attention to the marketing, right? And like, I heard the person talk about the program about like 6-7 times. And then on the 8th time, I was kind of like, like maybe this is something that I want. Because they kind of hit me with like different angles around the program. And I was just like, wait, like maybe this is something that actually like I really do need actually in 2024. Like, now that I think about it, like this would be really, really cool. And it took me so many touch points. Like, I don't think I'm actually going to go for the program just because it's a time issue for me. Like, I have so many things I'm signed up for, and I have 2 offers that I'm working on, all that stuff, or like running in January. But if it wasn't a time issue, I would honestly sign up for this program. I just want to show you, like, I had been exposed to this offer like 8 times before I was like, oh my God, like, I think I actually really need this. And now I'm going to join the next cohort because I'm obsessed with this offer now, even though I literally went from like, don't really care, don't have time for it, to literally being like, oh my God, I actually need this in my business. And it literally took 8 touch points to get me there, right? And I still haven't decided to buy, right? So I'll sign up for the cohort for like Q2 or whatever. But even then, like, I'm probably going to need more touch points to convince me, right? And this is where like selling frequently is so important, because you need to hit people with different types of messaging, because also there are different types of buyers, right? Like, some people are more analytical. Some people want a deep connection with you. They're more amiable. Some people are assertive and they have a bit of an ego and they don't really want to just be told like you're wrong. They need kind of like to have their ego stroked. Like, there's so many different angles that you need to approach when you're selling your offer that are going to together achieve the effect of actually selling your offer, right? So, and the more that you sell, the more that you get feedback on what's working. The more feedback you get, the more you can refine, and the more you can refine, the more you can sell, basically, because you're just like figuring out what works, right? For example, I asked 2 of the baddies who upgraded to the VIP experience with IG Baddie, like, what sold you on the VIP experience? One of them said, every time I talk to you, I just get golden nuggets. And like, I want more of your support during those 5 weeks. And the second baddie said that the major accountability sold her. She was like, I want the accountability. I want to make sure that I freaking execute during these 5 weeks. And I want to have access to your brain. So those are kind of like, that's information for me now of why people have bought. And so probably not paying that much close attention to my stories, but if you noticed, the way that I talked about the VIP experience yesterday is different to the way I'm talking about the VIP experience today, where today I'm leaning more into that accountability, right? To speak to the person who really wants that accountability, because that's a selling point, right? And then I'll probably also go back to talking about like having access to me for like feedback because it's valuable or whatever, right? But you can see, like, as you gather more data, you can refine by adding to that conversation, right? Because there's probably conversations going on in people's heads as they're looking at this IG Baddie promotion, and they're just like, oh, like, can I actually pull this off? Like, can I really like do this program? Will I get results? I always struggle to stay accountable. And then it's like, hey, like, do you want to make sure that you're accountable? Do you want to make sure that you get results? Like, you literally, like, because I'm going to push your ass in the Telegram group for the VIP experience. You get access to the group Telegram where you can like directly ask me questions. that's going to join a conversation in their head, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, like this is how I can make this offer work for me. Now I feel like there's almost like a bit of a guarantee, right? So this is literally how I get people to buy. I am joining in the conversation. I'm actually being specific with who I'm targeting, why that type of person has bought in the past, talking more about that, and then using that to basically just like increase the effect, right? And increase my sales. So I hope you enjoyed that. And if you are looking for support in these areas, this is literally exactly what IG Baddie is about. It is a 5-week program starting in January 29th, Monday, January 29th. If you want to triple your Instagram engagement, audience growth, and dream client DM inquiries, this is honestly the perfect program if you're looking for something foundational on Instagram and you really want to make sure that you're like targeting the right client. You want to make sure your content is speaking their language. You're not just inventing random terms just to stand out that are falling flat with your ideal client, and you want to really feel confident on Instagram and have that confident energy so that you can make those sales and get 2024 up and rolling right in January and February. All right, so send me a DM if you're interested in IG Baddie. I would love to have you inside. We have 5 baddies inside right now, and I'm super excited. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Even the baddies inside the free challenge got some crazy results with their reach. I personally went from like 1.3K accounts reached in 30 days to like almost 4K with my Instagram reels. So that was just in like 10 days. I'm going to be giving you weekly prompts to create your content, make sure you're posting the right mix of content. So send me a DM if you want to be inside IG Baddie. All right, chat to you guys later.